Welcome to episode 191 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Freeman, and today you're talking to a phenomenal person with a phenomenal story. And one of the subjects we will be talking about is resilience. And like a lot of good terms, resilience has become kind of a buzzword almost, and sometimes we don't think about it. But really, resilience can be the difference between living a life where we're very miserable and living a life where we feel abundant and prosper. I don't want to say too much, and I want to get my guests on. So I'll be back to introduce him more formally, but first, this.
Today's guest, Genero Crenshaw.
Well, welcome back. I've known Genero Crenshaw for years after I saw him speak on stage and was very impressed. This man not only has an amazing story, but his stage presence is just phenomenal. I have to admit, most of the time we've gotten together, we've talked about how to expand my business. But the last time we got together, I started asking him more about his life as a kid, a teenager, and in college. It was fascinating. His young life revolved around playing sports. He was on track to have an amazing college baseball career. Unexpected things changed the course of his journey. During this episode, we will talk about coping with the unexpected while still pursuing the best we can be and the best we can become. Please welcome to the awkwardly awesome stage. Um, is a stage or more like a cafe where we talk? It's probably more like a cafe sitting around drinking virtual coffee or something. Please welcome Genero Crenshaw.
Hey, Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm thrilled to have you on today. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually appreciated to be on the Awkwardly Awesome podcast because you are awkwardly awesome, one of the best people I've ever come across. So I'm so happy to be here.
Mm, thank you.
I also want to say one thing too. That at the same event where we met, I was so impressed by your presentation so much, and so I think we hit it off well because we both were impressed with each other from that event.
Oh God, that was a great day.
Great day.
Um, but I want to start talking a long ways before that day we met. When you were a kid, how did sports come into your life?
Well, sports came into my life almost as it was part of the life of the community where I grew up. I grew up in a community that it was heavily sports influenced, but not only was it heavily influenced, some of uh, the best athletes in the history of professional sports actually lived on my exact block. So I lived across the street.
What?
Yeah. So, for example, I lived across the street from NFL Hall of Famer Marcus Allen, and then he also has a brother who was the I would say the GOAT of Canadian football. So just by chance, I grew up on that block, but in that particular area, where I grew up, the community in that 5 mile radius, it had some of the most prolific professional athletes known to professional American sports. So
Did your parents choose to move there for that reason?
no. It was just that it was the flow of how we moved and migrated from where we started in San Diego. My parents came from the South. They came from Alabama, and then they moved west. And then where we ended up living, which is southeastern San Diego, it's like AKA the black neighborhood. So we kind of lived in the black neighborhood, and it wasn't by choice for sports. It was the middle class for the black neighborhood where we grew up.
Did your parents play sports?
My father played football for a little while, but not really too seriously. And my mom, no, she didn't play any sports.
So you were surrounded by a community of athletes excelling at the craft, but what was your individual introduction to playing sports?
Yeah, well, like 7 years old is the time where you kind of start. Started doing the entire circuit. I started out with baseball. I don't know which one starts first, but let's just think. Well, yes, probably was baseball. Baseball started. Then I played baseball. As soon as baseball was over, or it was kind of an overlap, I went into the football, and then I additionally just played those two sports at first. And I started, like I said, at age 7, and I just continued to play them every year. It was part of the process of, how going to school was just something you do at age 6. Started to play sports was something we did at age 7, and everybody did it pretty much.
Do you remember? And did you enjoy playing sports right off the bat? Or?
Yes, I enjoy playing sports right off the bat. And primarily because when I was playing sports right off the bat, we were good. I was always on good teams. So, for example, I played on a baseball team where we won every single game of the season. I played on a football team where we didn't lose a game for a few years in a row. So I got off to a very good start. And but I also enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing the games because as much as we played the organized sports with the coaches and things like that, we did also even more of playing sports just on our street. We would come outside and play sports right on our street. So then, luckily, also next door to my house, it was a vacant lot. So we also had a place to play sports. Also in that vacant lot, especially we played baseball in vacant lots, and then we didn't have to go to the park. It was right next door to my house, and then we played football and that kind of thing in the street.
So in life, to become good at anything, practically it requires practice. And would you have called it practicing back then when you were playing all these sports, or would you just have called it like going outside to play?
Yeah, I would have called it going outside to play, but I'm glad that you mentioned the idea that we were practicing, because it was actual practice that we did in car practice, because one of the things that happened was we would play so much. And I'll give you an example of why baseball was such a way to excel, right? So in baseball, the real baseball, you play with a harder ball, right? But we were playing baseball initially with tennis balls, right? So tennis balls was one of the things, but another thing that allowed us to get very good hand-eye coordination is we would actually, sometimes you could only have so many tennis balls since we weren't tennis players, for one. So me and a bunch of the guys in my neighborhood and some girls as well in the neighborhood, we would get the foil, the regular tin foil from, and we would make these little balls, and then we would wrap it up real tight with tape, and we called it tape ball. But so we would use the tape ball, and then we would use like a broomstick handle, and we would be able to play that until deep into the night. But that ability to learn how to play with that difficulty, it allowed us to be able to excel because it was way easier. It was way harder to hit that ball than it was to hit a baseball. And then it came up with an idea that I picked up later on accident from talking to a coach. And the coach basically told us, like, what told me, I was wondering, coach, like, why are we doing these things that's not really the sport? And he was like, because what you want is you want the practice and the things that you do to be way harder than what you do in the game. So then the game becomes easy. And that's what happened with the tape ball. We were trying to hit tape balls with broomsticks. That's way harder than hitting the baseball with a baseball bat. So when it came down to playing with a real baseball and a bat, it was like super easy. And that's a process that also noticed why a lot of athletes coming from those Dominicans and those Latin athletes that come across. If you look at professional baseball, even to this day, almost all the middle infielders come from those countries over there, is because they practice every day growing up on those harsh course fields. So their hand and eye coordination becomes the best. And that's why if you look at every roster, pretty much every shortstop, second baseman is from a Latin country.
So you want the practice to be way harder than, so when it comes game day, that's almost like an easy day, and you
exactly. And you know what happened is and that's important because throughout my life, being the stuff I learned from sports translated even to any success that I even experienced today, right? And one of the things that I would translate that goes with today, what I do in life today, is the idea that I believe my preparation helps me more, because I understand that the preparation should be more difficult and more demanding than the actual whatever I'm going to do. Whether it's going to be if I prepare for a client, my preparation to work with a client, it will be more challenging than what the client may request of me. So then it makes for example, the client consultations much easier. But I've always taken that, once I learned it, once I was told it, and then I didn't really understand it. I just take stuff, but I would file it away. You know, our subconscious remembers everything, and then I would file it away. And then it started to make sense as I became an adult.
What would you say to someone who's listening who would say, but Genero, you don't understand. I'm so busy, I don't have time to prepare.
I would say, if you don't have time to prepare, when will you find time to perform?
If you don't have time to prepare, when will you find time to perform?
Yes, that's what I would actually say, because a lot of people say, I don't have time to do it right. I say, if you don't have time to do it right, when will you? I mean, because people, they say they don't have time to do it better. And I say, when will you have time to do it well? Same thing. I do hear that. I do hear that, but it's a compounding effect, because when you prepare and do well, it creates energy and drive. And I think most people can understand that when you experience success once, it oftentimes will give you the energy to continue to go forward. So if you take the time to prepare, gain the skills, the knowledge, the competencies that you need, and then practice it so that it's not a winged type of a scenario, you'll find so much value that then it makes a lot of sense. You will want to do it.
So, some of the energy you're talking about is called having confidence in yourself. What would you say about the connection between preparation and confidence?
I would say it's critical. I think preparation is the seed that grows into confidence. Confidence comes from competency. Competency comes from preparation and practice. So it's a journey, but you start out with practicing and preparing. You get success. You're moving towards this direction, and then eventually you'll get some success, and then that will be the confidence, and then the confidence will allow you to have the momentum to do more preparation because you see the value, and then you go, and then it is. So that's kind of what happens. So it's a cycle. Confidence is a never-ending cycle but it's based on preparation and getting a good result.
Confidence is a never-ending cycle. That's an amazing way to think of confidence.
Yeah, and I really think that's kind of the because here it is. I'll give you another way to look at it. I have this ideology that I came up with, and I'll admit I didn't come up with it on my own. I came up with it after working with Tony Robbins as a student. But so it's a my motto was built off what I learned through him. But I call it the bear cycle, and you can actually put confidence in, and I'll explain it to you really briefly. So the bear cycle is based on the acronym of the letters, the 4 words that spell bear. So that's BEAR. And so the first level in the bear cycle is that you have to believe. You get a belief in something, right? And when you get belief in something, it will give you energy. And then, but the energy that it gives you is critical energy. It gives you the energy to take action, especially at difficult times. And then when you get the action, as we all know, only the action, which is the A, so we got BEA, only the action produces results. Nothing else produces results. Even inaction is an action. So only action produces results. But the reason why I say it's a cycle is because if you go through, you have a belief, and I'll just do it this way. So you have a belief that starts here. And then you go through the cycle, of getting the energy from that belief to even try something. And then you take an action, then you get a result. But the way that it works, it's a never-ending cycle either. Also, because once you get a result, now your belief is here. Now your belief is here, and then you get a result, and then you go through the same process again, and now your belief gets stronger and stronger to the point where you get unbelief, you become unstoppable. And all that belief part is all the confidence. Confidence builds and builds and builds. That's why it's a never-ending cycle, because it builds and builds on past confidence, past results, past accomplishments is the lever that boosts confidence. Because it could go the other way also. You can lose confidence, but it's easier to lose confidence. But the more areas where you find competence, your ability to become confident happens. And that's kind of also how sports played into my life as well.
And you also said that sports play into your life because coaches sometimes were in a position to give you really specific teachings that inspire you. Would you please tell the one story of what your coach said when you were in high school during practice?
Yeah, so it's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I've ever gotten in my entire life, and I still work off of it to this day. So imagine you're an athlete and you're doing the best you can. You feel like you're doing the best you can, right? And then the coaches yell at you, "Hey!" And when you play sports, they always try to call you by your last name. I don't know why what that came from, but it was like, "Hey, Crenshaw, I want you to do your best." And at that point, I thought I was doing my best, to be honest. I thought I was kind of doing my best. And so after practice, I went up to the coach afterwards, and I was like, "Hey, coach, why you do that? Why'd you focus on that? And then also, why was it so important to you that I do my best?" And he said, "Because when you do your best, the worst thing that can happen is you'll get better. And I want you to become the person you could be and should be. So always do your best." And I never forget that. And I hope the audience doesn't forget it either. But that has been the catalyst to add to confidence, and then add in always doing my best, it puts me on a cycle for continuous growth.
So speaking of continuous growth, so the journey from age 7 through playing sports and being on winning teams and gaining confidence, it gave you opportunities. You got a college scholarship to go to San Diego State University to play baseball.
Yeah, yeah, but it was big. It's more. It's really a lot more than that, because for example, if I just take the term scholarship as an example, it's because I think of terms of scholarship. People go to they use the term scholarship, but really what it was, by playing sports and actually by getting into sports early in life, and it was just I don't know if it was so some teams got to win and some teams got to lose, right? So I still think it's because of sports, because it was a way from early in life for me to recognize that I could be exceptional at something, or at
It
least
was
very
a
good.
way from early in life for you to recognize that you can be exceptional at something.
Right. And it was different. It was different than for example, I always did well in school, right? I always did well in school. And one of the reasons why I did well in school, because I love to read, right? So I did well in school, but getting an A in class doesn't have the same feeling as being the first base baseball team. I don't know why. Maybe it should, but it never was. So even doing well in school, it didn't make me feel as exceptional as being able to play a sport and actually play multiple sports very well. That kind of it made me understand that I could be exceptional from an early age.
So as a kid, what's the feeling like when your team wins the championship?
I think it's the same no matter whether you're younger or like last night was the NBA championship. I saw those guys, these grown men, crying and tearing and feeling. It's the same feeling when you're 7 or 8, because when you're playing the championship at the age level that you at, wherever age level you're at the top in your mental situation. So there's no difference, but it's the same. It's just an overwhelming feeling of accomplishment, and kind of standing on top of on the top of the crowd, so kind of a thing. So I think that's kind of the feeling that goes with it. But oftentimes I noticed I did a lot of mentoring when I established my life. I had some situations in my life where I went off the path. I'll just use that term. And then when I came back, I did a lot of mentoring as one of the first things that I did when I reestablished myself go to in the journey that I'm on now. Everything is the whole journey, but I realized that a lot of young people that I was coming into, especially from the same communities that I came from, I noticed that a lot of them never felt that they were exceptional. And then I would talk to them. And one of the things I noticed, a lot of them never played sports either, or they never had a way or something that they did well enough for them to feel exceptional. And I'm not even going to use exceptional, because everybody's not going to be. I think everybody is exceptional if they can embrace it, but even feel that they're good at something, even feeling that they're good at something. Because even if you didn't win championships, because I wasn't always on teams that won championships, but I always was able to feel like, I was doing good. I was, I'll just use this term. It's not the real term I should probably use, but I think it'll make the contrast. I never felt like that I was a bum. I always felt like that, at least I was above average at this. And it came from that. So that's the idea. And I think more people need to know that, that you're good. You're awkwardly awesome, if nothing else.
You raise a really great point. A really great point. Every human being is probably exceptional, or let's say every human being is exceptional they have life in them that are exceptional, but not every human being realizes that they are exceptional,
Exactly.
recognizes who they are and what they're capable of.
That's true. I've seen that so many times, and and then we also even I know for myself that I can go through periods of the same thing of not noticing, uh, having self doubt. That's why I say confidence and is always a ongoing cycle, because there's periods you're not always feeling the most confident. You're not always feeling that you're exceptional and things like that as well.
Um, that is so true. So, and those times can be very challenging.
Right. And so, but I think if you start to have your inner understanding of the idea of exceptional. So here's another thing too. I think I know for me, when I really embraced the idea of doing my best, then the result didn't become as important. And
When you really embraced the idea of doing your best, the result didn't become as important. Well,
exactly,
why is that?
because you can always say I did my best, but it goes back to the idea. So then you have to internalize. So the reason for me why it works is because I really believe in the idea that the coach gave me, because I was able to notice it. I never would have noticed it if it wasn't pointed out, but once it was pointed out and I noticed it, I noticed that when I really did my 100% best, gave it my all and things that I thought were important, I did notice that I was getting a little better and a little better. I actually really knew it. And so the belief, like I told you, it got stronger and stronger. So now I believe it so much that even if I do something and I give it all my best and the result doesn't become the result that I want, I really still can say, well, I'll be better next time. But I believe it.
Powerful stuff. And it's tempting listening to someone talk motivationally like you are, to say, well, for Genero to say you've always been good at sports, life has always been easy. But I know your story, and I know that's not true even for you. What occurred your freshman year during baseball practice?
Yeah. So I don't know if you can notice. But this eye right here is actually not it's a transplant. It's not an actual. It wasn't the eye I was born with. I'll put it that way. And it happened because
Can you see out of the eye?
yeah, I can make some sense out of stuff because it's a transplant, but it's not it's not what you would expect. It's just above blindness. In what they call blindness, so it's just above that. So I can't see out of it, but as you notice, it's not as sensitive to light. I got the lights on in my studio, so if you notice, it's not as it can't tolerate the light as much as the other eye and stuff like that. But it came from messing around baseball during pre-practice and getting it damaged. And I don't want to go to the horrifics of it, but it got damaged really bad by running into a fence.
So you were on this trajectory to play college baseball, and in an instant that trajectory changed. What is it? What was it like having something happen so suddenly that fundamentally changed your life?
That's a good question, and it took a while. But one of the things I realized, it goes all the way back to the beginning. I knew that was because of the trajectory that I was on, I knew that that wasn't the only thing that I could do. I knew I could do other stuff because I was able to, I was able to be very good in other sports as well. So I knew I could do other stuff. I was always an A student. So the real reason to go to college in any way is to go to school, to get an education. So it just put me on a different path. I didn't get let down as much because I knew I could do something else. And that's because I had these beliefs ingrained in me for so many years already by now. You got to imagine by this time, I've already been, around this time, I'm 10 to 12 years in believing I'm exceptional. So it didn't rock me as much. And then also the idea that I was good in school, it didn't make it where I had to be successful in sport. Like some people feel like if they don't do it in sports, they can't do anything. But I never felt that because I was kind of standing out because I had embraced the best concepts, and I just focused on what I was going to do next, and then I wanted to be the best at that. And then I kind of always went with that mentality. Whatever I was going to do, I was going to try to be the best I could at it. If I was going to spend a lot of time on it.
So, am I understanding right? You love playing sports and you loved the whole thing, but sports did not make up your whole identity. You weren't attached to playing sports.
No, I didn't feel like I had to. Right. So I also make this a little bit more clear too, because it came to me later, and I'll tell you something that I've been doing for a little while. It's actually not even sports as much. I thought it was really about sports, but what it really is about, I have a drive to compete. So I just like to compete, right? And I still have that drive. I like to compete, and I didn't notice that at the time. Like when I look back, how competitive I was, for example, just playing marbles or playing marbles. But I'll give you, one so that you can really understand it. This will make it it'll be kind of funny. Probably make you feel different about me, but I'll just share it anyway, right? So I got a family. I got 4 daughters and and a wife. So families get together and we play board games, right?
Yeah.
But my family don't want to play. My family don't want to play board games with me because they say I'm too competitive. So it really was a drive. I just had this competitive nature. It's really more of what it was than anything else. It just happened to be that we were playing sports. And then I did the same thing when I was in graduate school at one period. When I was in graduate school, I was going through graduate school, and I came to my advisor once. I was like, it was kind of probably not true, but I was like, I'm not being recognized in this graduate school, right? This is what I tell my graduate advisor. Everybody gets their own advisor in graduate school. So I went to him. I said, I need to figure out something because I feel like I'm competed against the other 12 people in my program. I felt like that, but it wasn't the case, and it shouldn't have been the case. And so we came up with this idea that I would get a perfect score on every test for the whole semester. And then that was my motivation because I wanted to have a way to say I was the best, even though that was never part of the program. And so I went into that. So really, more than anything, sports was the way for me to have the competitive drive. But it's really more about competing than anything else.
So the years of sports taught you the fundamentals of preparing for competition and competing and doing that again and again.
Exactly. Yeah, because then you also have to learn how to lose. That's a lot of people don't realize that. One of the things was playing sports, you also learn how to lose as well, which is actually helps you to become a better winner.
Can you say more about that? So many people dread the idea of losing.
Yeah, so the idea of losing is you become a better winner because you learn a lot more from losing than you do from succeeding. Most people won't recognize that. You'll learn a lot more from losing than succeeding, but it goes when you analyze your loss, when you analyze the activities and the actions, because really, like I said before, it's only the actions that really produce anything. But when you analyze the actions, you're able to find two things of which are very critical. One of the things that most people focus on, they are able to find out what they are not good at, right? And then they'll focus on that and they'll get down on that, that's good to know what you're not good at, but you also get to find out where you used to excel. And so, and what you're really good at. So what I kind of do differently, and this is something I've come up with over the last maybe 15, 20 years, is it's more in focus. It's more important, or you get more bang for your buck to get even better at the stuff that you're the best at versus trying to get so much better at the stuff that your weaknesses is. And that's what most people will teach you. Improve your weaknesses, improve your weaknesses. But if I believe if you can expand on what you're already great at, it'll take you much further.
Expand what you're already great at. That makes sense. But then what do we do? Do we ignore weaknesses?
So I'll say you acknowledge weaknesses. So there's two types of weaknesses. There are weaknesses that you can't go forward without overcoming. And then there's our weaknesses that are just areas where you're not as good, but they may be good enoughs, right? So if you have areas where so a lot of people try to make their good enoughs great. Where what they really should do is let the good enoughs be good enoughs and make the greats good so that they become greater and greater. And that's where they get the most bang for their buck. That's like
you're saying don't waste energy trying to make the good enoughs great.
Right. But a lot of people will they'll focus on the weakness and try to make so they don't have any weaknesses. But if you focus on making your greater, then it will overcome your weaknesses because it compounds. It has a higher level of compounding. If you do it that way.
In this society, you can delegate a lot of
Exactly.
Like if you're not good at accounting, hire an accountant.
Yeah, but you know what's funny that you said I think you're aware of this. One of my main focuses is nowadays is I do entrepreneurial coaching, especially for businesses who are doing good and want to do better. And I actually use that analogy. I said, if you're not good at accounting, why are you doing your own bookkeeping? You know what I'm saying? So, but you'll find that most entrepreneurs or a lot of entrepreneurs will do that. They will spend their time on that aspect of the business, and so then they don't have enough time. So then they'll say, go back to what you were talking about earlier. Then they will say they don't have enough time to do what they need to do. Is that's because their focus is all over the place when instead of focusing on the things that they do well and doing it even better.
Crucial. So this next question is directly from you. I'm just reading it back to you. Okay?
Okay, go ahead.
If I can find it here. What was unexpected for you about prison?
Yes. So first and foremost, I'm not ashamed to say it. I did 10 years, 7 months, and 13 days in prison. And one of the things I would say, I'll make a statement that I believe 100%. And then you probably be shocked, and then I'll kind of tell you why. So during those 10 years, 7 months, and 13 days, I feel like it's some of the most important days of my life. And I wouldn't take them back. I wouldn't take it back, even if I was given an opportunity to, because of how important it was to where I am today, right?
So what back up? I mean, people dread the concept of prisons, and just so much negative energy behind the thought of going to prison and stuff. But you're saying they were some of the best days of your life.
Yes, sir. I'm exactly saying that. I'll actually explain it to you so that there's a takeaway versus just being a statement. I don't want it to just be a hot take, but I want to give you some reasons for that.
Yeah, please explain it.
All right. So one of the things that happened to me, it happens to everybody when they go to prisons because of the way the prison is structured. But a lot of maybe everybody doesn't take advantage of it. But when I went to prison, it was for the first time I actually had some time to actually be alone with myself.
Mm.
And that's important because before I went to prison, I almost every single day, if not every single day, would interact with people. I mean, one of the things you would figure out during your day is who I'm going to hang out with or where I'm going to. I never was able to spend time just all by myself. Also,
so your life before prison was go.
go. So the first thing I was never able to be by myself. Plus, also I grew up with a pretty large size family. So no matter where you go, you got people, somebody's around. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't get a chance to understand myself. I didn't get a chance to do any kind of self-reflection. And I know you're aware of this. Self-reflection is a powerful, probably the most powerful tool you can have. And people talk about, for example, they say that it's in stone way back days. I forget, way back thousands of years. They say something. I'm not for sure about this, but they say something about there's a engravement where it says "Know thyself" or something to this effect. But I know it's in the Bible and things like that. So this is an old concept. But how do you actually get time to do that?
How do you actually get time to know yourself? Wow,
right?
What a question.
And so what happened was when I got into prison, it was for the first time I got on the journey of knowing myself. And by the time I was coming out, way before the time I was coming out, but I began to understand myself and know myself while I was in prison for the first time. Prior to that, I never knew myself. And I did self-reflection, and then it wasn't all on me. I actually had some good help. I have a mentor that I've been having in my life for the last. I'm 60. I'll be 60 in a couple of weeks. So I'll just say I'm 60 now. My birthday in a couple of weeks. I'll be 60. But
Happy early birthday.
Yeah, thank you. So, but I also have a mentor in my life who's been my mentor nonstop for the last 45 years.
You've had a mentor in your life nonstop for 45 years.
Yeah, and nonstop to this day. Like even as recent as Sunday, I call him Pops, but he was a mentor to me. So, anyways, when I had gone to prison, he started sending me books, and I started. That was my first. He started sending me personal development books. So not just any old books. He started sending me personal development books, and from those personal development books, hold on for a second. I just want to stop this noise from happening. Can we rewind that too, Jason? I'll stop this noise from happening. I didn't turn my phone off.
We're good. I don't hear the noise. We're good.
Oh, you didn't hear it? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So I kind of rewinded, and I guess you guys could fix it. Yeah. So
it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. So I was so when I was in prison, my mentor of 45 years that I got now, but anyways, he started sending me books, personal development books. So number one, that was my introduction to personal development.
Wow.
Never had it. So he's sending me personal development books. And one of the books gave me the best perspective ever. And I don't know if you're familiar with this book, but I think everybody should read this book. I actually recommend everybody read this book, no matter what your situation is. The book was called A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and it's Viktor Frankl. But just to give you a highlight of the book, he's a guy, he was in concentration camps back in the Holocaust era, and he found a reason to survive the whole Holocaust, and it came out. But anyways, he ended up writing that awesome book. I read that book, but I read a number of books, and those books are like, okay, so I equate those books to the transition from, like, I grew up on the sports, and then those books and being in prison put me on the personal development journey. And so that's why it was very important, and I'm still on the personal development journey to this day. But had I not gone to prison, I never would have. Well, you never can say, because you don't know what will happen. But I believe, had I not gone to prison, it was not likely that I would have gotten the taken the time for self-reflection. I know I probably wouldn't have got introduced to the books. I probably wouldn't have never sat down and read them. And then by reading these books, I started getting on my journey, start understanding myself. And then I began to understand the value of taking time for yourself as a powerful and a regularly occurring tool.
What would you say to someone facing a prison sentence about making the best of that time?
So that one of the things I would say, and I would say, is this: to find time and get to understand who you are as a person. But I would also recommend, depending on what their situation is, to either start reading if you already know how to read, or if you don't know how to read, then first learn to read, and then start reading, but eventually start reading, because you can learn a lot more from the experiences of others than just living life based on your experiences. And there's so much in books. And I probably won't put his name out there, but I met a guy. Well, I didn't met the guy. I knew him before prison, but I knew coming into prison, he didn't even know how to read. And now he learned how to read. He's written like 3 or 4 books. He became the number one person in his field by how they rate it, by how the organization rates it. He was the person of the year in his field. But he will say that a lot of it became because he learned how to read.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you found goodness, and when you were in prison, you were able to make it into a positive experience. And then when you got out, you started mentoring young people who might be thinking of going down that path.
Exactly.
What was that like?
I think that's the best work I've ever done. I actually started doing that right out of like almost like day one. When I came home, almost like day one, that's what I started getting. I got involved with it. That's actually how I got involved. I don't know if I ever told you this, Jason. That's actually how I got involved with speaking in the first place.
Wow.
That's how I got involved with speaking. But again, that's how I got involved with speaking once I got out. But guess where I learned? When my foundation in speaking started at an organization called Toastmasters International. You familiar with that organization?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so remember how I told you? I'll say one thing first, and then I'll say this. One of the most important things that I've ever done was become a professional speaker. Also, so that's one of the most beneficial. I don't know if you want to call it professions, or that's one of the most beneficial things I've ever done is become a professional speaker. And I say that because not only what it's done for me, but I will see people 5 years, 10 years later who went to one of my presentations and say that they remember it and that it touched them, and they could actually really just tell me what part of it did. So I know it helped a lot of people. But guess what, Jason? This goes back to the idea of what I mentioned to you, why I feel like prison was some of the best times in my life. Where do you think I got introduced to Toastmasters International?
In prison?
In prison. I got introduced to Toastmasters International in prison. And and I know Toastmasters International it helped me to get on that my speaking career. But that idea, I came out now. I had some abilities to speak also that I got from being inside and got a chance to practice it, got a chance to prepare, got a chance to have my belief that I could be a speaker. And all those happened before I ever came out to try it in public. Remember, that's what's big about it. And then I got out and I became a nationally recognized speaker on anti-gang intervention and all that kind of stuff and bullying. And so that's kind of what my mentoring was about, because a lot of people who have issues or are dominant figures and bullies, they don't realize that they're a victim of the bullying as much as they're bullies, and those kinds of conversations. And then I mentored people that was going down the wrong path, and they would believe in the stories that you get told when you be on the streets and that kind of stuff. But they could accept it because I did that time in prison.
So what would you say to someone now who's facing the prospect of getting out of prison and adjusting again to life outside of prison? What would you tell them about making a smooth transition?
So I would say the first thing I would say is it's a day by day thing. It's almost as similar to the concept of I know I got some people that I know that I'm really close to who are alcoholics. So I'm not gonna say former alcoholics, but they're on the sober track, and how they tell them it's a day by day thing. So that would be first. You just gotta live one day at a time. So always make the day that you're doing the best day it can be, and then it'll compound. So a lot of times people have the idea of I'm going to make up for the time I lost. That's the wrong thing. Is just make up the best out of the time that you have right now. So that would be the biggest thing. Not trying to catch the time you lost, because that's not possible. And then look for opportunities to get connected with people who are doing well or doing the things that you want to do, and get around those types of people. And obviously, a lot of people don't realize this. That's also the same way a lot of people end up in trouble. They get around the people who are doing the things that they want to do, but the things that they really want to do is not really the things. You can do that in a different area. You can do it in the other areas as well. So that's what I would say. Take advantage of the programs and that kind of thing. But the most important thing is it's one day at a time. And here it goes all the way back. If you make today your best day, then you roll into the next one. And then one of the things I picked up this thing. I picked up this pledge in sports a long time ago in sports. I was probably like an early teenager, maybe 13 or 14, and it was a success pledge, and it's about today is a new day. I'll just kind of say it to you. I haven't said it in a while. I used to say it every single day, so I may still be able to say it, but I'll give you the gist of it. But I'll actually send you a copy of it too, Jason. But it goes something like this. And I used to I lived by it for a long. I said it a lot. I said it a lot when I was in prison, and I said it a lot earlier. So it's kind of ingrained, even though I might not remember. But I'm going to give you the gist of it, if not perfect recitation. And I got this from one of our coaches used to make us say this before the start of every practice. But it's today is a new day, a new beginning. It has been given to me as a new gift. I can either use it or throw it away. What I do today will affect me tomorrow. So I promise to do this day to the fullest by giving my best, realizing it can never come back again. This is my life, and I promise to make it a success. And just having that focus, it moves you forward. And you notice some of the key things that are in there. Success, doing your best, all the kind of things I live by work there. But the main thing, the core to that is today is a new day. It's a new gift. And if you take the days like that and get the most out of each day, eventually it'll compound and you'll have the life you want. Otherwise, success becomes a habit.
Success becomes a habit. You talk a lot about action. It takes action to create things in this world. And thinking back to sports, a lot of times when we see someone when good at athletics, we think that's mainly physical ability. But can you talk a little about the mental aspect of taking action, whether it's playing sports or starting a new project?
Yeah, well, I would say this. I would say I would say the success. I say 80% probably the success is more mental. Even in athletics, it's more mental than psychological. And they in a lot of sports psychologists and a lot of people in the performance field will
More mental than physical.
They'll say that the mental is more than the physical. Because you have, here's an example. And you'll have athletes. You have two athletes. If it was mostly physical, then you would see the most talented players by their physical. You would notice it by their physicals. I'll give a couple examples of from prominent players that most everybody kind of knows. So, for example. One of the best basketball players, probably the he's definitely a top 10 basketball player ever, is Larry Bird. No physicals, his physical attributes. I mean, not physical. I don't want to use physical. His athleticism is nowhere near the top, but he's one of the best players ever because he had a lot of the mental abilities. And you'll see that in all kinds, especially in sports. You see it all over the place. But the mental abilities is where the difference really happens. And even if you see players who are athletic, you'll still hear them. They'll tell you that they got some kind of mental, when they got involved with some kind of mental coaching or some kind of things like that, that changed them. Like I remember Oprah talking about her success. She said she gave a lot of her success for reading this book by this lady. I think she became actually a student from this lady, Shakti Gawain. I don't know if you're familiar with her book. I forgot what's her name of her book. I got her book. I forget the name of it, but Oprah talks about the mental strength she got from that particular thing is really what's significantly important to her ability for success. Because when you get the mental toughness, you're able to go through adversity. Like I got mental toughness just by reading Viktor Frankl. When I was reading Viktor Frankl's book, and I'm in prison, and they had a riot once, and there was some tear gas. I'm like, well, this is nothing. I already had been reading that book, right? I said, this is nothing compared to what Viktor Frankl was going through. I could get through this, but it was the mental toughness, and that's kind of really a critical factor. And I really believe it's way more important than physical or athleticism.
So last two more questions. In my work, I talk about the power of doing our imperfect best, and what that means to me is I envision my best and go towards it. But when mistakes and obstacles come up, instead of just forgetting about my best, I learn from the mistakes and obstacles to make my focus on being resilient and going towards the best even stronger. What does doing your imperfect best mean to you, Genero?
It means this, and even from your example. So when I'm always on the journey, because I believe that it's my duty to be better today than I was yesterday, right? But obviously, there's days where you can look at the day and be like, "That's nothing." Like there's no way that happened. But what I try to do, and it's difficult, so it doesn't always work. But I always will when I'm looking at the things that didn't go right. I look at it from this perspective. And I think this perspective is the powerful part. I look at it from what could be good about this, meaning what could I take from this that's good, even though obviously it's bad, but what could I take from this that's good? What I took from prison that was good was I got a chance to know myself. I got a chance to read personal development books. When would I have had a time to read personal development books from cover to cover and take notes when I was on the street? When did I have that time? Never. When I was in prison, I had plenty of time. I've read at least 102 books where from cover to cover, all on one topic, personal development. I read a lot of other books too, but I just in personal development space. So obviously I had some tools, and I think that also allowed me to be okay. But the idea was when I have something that goes wrong, I try to, and it doesn't happen 100% of the time, but my goal is always to say, okay, what could be good from it? What can I take that's good from this failure?
What can I take that's good from this failure?
Because what happened is I want to be on a continual path because since I know I'm going to fail. So I know this going in. I know I'll fail today. I'll fail maybe tomorrow, but I'll fail since I know I'm going to do this. The reason why I do that exercise that I just mentioned is because I want to fall forward. I want to fail forward.
Fail forward. Wow, powerful.
Yeah.
Lastly, if people want to know more about your work, how do they find you? Or?
It's funny. It's funny that you asked that question. So I'll give an answer. My firm belief has always been this ever since I've been able to do it well. I don't really wait for people to find me. I find them. So I'm a real believer in advertising is the key. And I believe the number one skill you could get, one of the number one skills you can get is if you're able to turn advertising into money, which is something I'm able to do. So I really don't wait for people to find me. I look at people who I decide what I want, who I want to attract, and then I attract them through my advertising. However, if somebody just wants to find me, they can find me on Instagram at speaktobерemembered.com. No, at Speak to Be Remembered. And Instagram don't have that. It don't have .com, but they can find me at Speak to Be Remembered. And it's just like the letters, you spell the words out, Speak to Be Remembered. So that's where you can find me on Instagram. And you can also find me on Instagram at Businetizer, and I'll spell that as well.
Yeah, what?
Businetizer. I'll tell you what that means in a second. I'll spell it first. Businetizer. So that's BIZNITIZER. So that's a profile that I have for the business. So for people who want to find me for business consulting, business advice, they will find me there. People want to find me for speaking advice, they will find me at Speak to Be Remembered. But let me tell you what Businetizer is, because I know you looking like you want to know. So let me tell you.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're familiar with the concept. If notice how you had all your books back there on your let's just say it was a wind blew through your room and knocked all your books on the ground, and then you didn't want to do it, so you wanted to hire a professional to help you organize your books and all that and put them back on. What would be the name of that person? The job title of the person that came in to help you to organize books?
A librarian would be good.
That would be good, but so in general to say that would it be efficient to call them an organizer?
Yeah.
Organizer. So notice that they organize, so they help you to organize their organizers. I'll give you one other metaphorical, then I'll tie it up. So this is say when you go out to eat and you don't have a chance to wash your hands, and then your hands are unsanitized, so they're unsanny. Sanity is a metaphor for healthy. If your hands are unsanny, what do you put on them in order to get them sanny?
Put on a bunch of sanitizer.
You put on sanitizer. So the idea is, right, you got it. So the idea is sanitize. So the idea is the postfix tizer. So when a business, so I'm giving you two of them. So when the business is running around and it's just going on the seat of its pants and it's kind of unorganized, stuff all over the place, they need somebody who get that stuff organized. Instead of being an organizer, I become their businessizer.
Nice, that's so clever.
If you have a business and the business is running around, it's kind of unhealthy. It's just got a lot of this and that, unfocused, unhealthy, and they want to get it healthy. They call the businessizer to get that business in a healthy, functioning, profitable fashion. So because of that, I call myself the businessizer. I help businesses get healthy and organized.
You help businesses get healthy and organized. I love it. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You're welcome, and I'm just so honored to be able to be your friend. That's critical. I'm like so honored just to be your friend. And I remember, I don't know how long ago it was, but so I remember the first time I saw you. Then I remember all the meetings and stuff that we had, and then I seen your podcast. I don't know how I saw it, but when I saw it, I just kind of like had a little bit of tears in my eyes. Like, yeah, so this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about right here. Jason has made it happen, and then I always was glad to be your friend even before, but I was like, this is somebody who takes it and he goes for it. And it's, because a lot of times I work with a lot of people in different kind of things. They it's not the same as when you see them grow and make the take that journey the way you've taken it. And I'm just so proud to be able to be your friend. Like, so every time you call me or I call you, like, it's a no-brainer. It's not if, it's like when.
Thanks so much for being my friend and filling my life with so much goodness and just being the amazing person that you are.
You're welcome. And so we're friends forever. We like this, Jason.
Like that.
That's right. That's right.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Janelle. And I've done well. I always call you G, but I've called you Janelle for over an hour now.
But you know what? We got to go back to G because my friends call me G.
Yeah. It seems really unnatural to call you Janelle. You're G. Thanks, G.
Yeah, because if people won't think you know me, you call me G, you know me.
Thanks, my friend.
Yeah, or if you call me Genero, then you must be mad at me like my mom. My mom only called me Genero when she's mad.
Oh yeah, definitely, G. Thanks so much, G.
Okay.
Wow. So deeply inspiring, and look at how much good G is doing in the world, and there's going to be things in our lives where huge challenges that come up, like the accident G had his freshman year, and it's just so wonderful to know that we can find positive path forward from those things and learn from those things and not we don't have, our life doesn't have to become miserable because we go through challenges. It can keep expanding. Thanks for tuning in. Tune in for another episode next week. Please, please leave comments if you want. We love them. And thanks most of all for being you. You have unique magic to share with the planet, and thanks for being you. Have a good day. Until next time. I'm Jason Freeman, and I have a speech impediment, and I'm proud to be me. And you have your challenges too. May you be proud